Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube's mass debate on Dark Side of the Ring, Season 3, Episode 8, the infamous... Oops, I apologize for that. Okay, it's infamous debate on the plane ride from hell. Now, I'm sure all of us have seen this, because if you haven't, then you shouldn't be joining this stream. But this was one of the better episodes as far as I was concerned. We got to see and hear more about this notorious plane ride where several people were fired, lots of incidents happened. We only briefly knew about it in the news at the time. I remember hearing about this story and then Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, being fired straight away afterwards. But this time we got some details. We got some real enlightenment on this particular story, as well as some tragedy as well, because we never really hear from regular people when it comes to Dark Side of the Ring. We only ever hear from, the wrestlers and people associated with the wrestlers. But this time around, we got to hear from the flight attendants who were on this plane having to deal with these behemoths, these larger-than-life people. Now, at the moment, we have Gary with us, but we will hopefully be joined by a couple of other people as well. But Gary, before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of this particular episode, what did you think and how did it make you feel?
Well, I'd heard some of these stories before because, they'd been in the ether. Like, I'd heard about the thing of Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig having a wrestling match right near the emergency exit. I'd heard that before. I heard the thing about Uncle Hayes getting his ponytail cut. I'd heard that. I'd heard that there was a few more drinks. I didn't know it was this awkward and this bad. I'd heard some of these stories and actually, something that I didn't know because I don't really watch WWE's animated effects. Apparently, they did an animated one of Ric Flair talking about the fact that he got drunk and flipping strolled down the aisle nude. So, that might be something that they want to take off their platforms and stuff like that, considering what's going on.
I've known Ric Flair to do some crazy things. I never knew, for a start, how well endowed he was. But apparently, this guy's got a very, very long and big dick. So big, so long, that he can turn it into a fucking propeller if he wants to. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But first of all, how did this all begin? Well, WWE were doing a tour of Europe at the time, and they were in Germany, they went to Scotland, and their final destination was London, England, where I'm from, funnily enough. They did a pay-per-view event. They had no idea, by the way, boss man, that there was a second pay-per-view done in England after SummerSlam. Hello, Shredder. Welcome to the show, mate.
Good evening, gents.
Looking very trim today, mate. You finally got rid of the Eric Rowans, huh?
Yeah, I was tired of it getting tangled up under my face mask when I was working all bloody week.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're just mentioning the beginning of this particular episode.
Yes, I saw you. You weren't aware of the England-only pay-per-views.
I'd
seen a couple of them myself. Like I seen Insurrection, and there was one where I can't remember what it was called. Like there was a couple of my friends went to one that was in Manchester actually. He's not the NBA Arena there, but back then he was the NBA Arena. And they went to that one.
I know stuff like UK Rampage,
no Mercy, Rebellion, and Insurrection are the main ones.
I remember stuff back in the day, like UK Rampage and stuff.
Capital Carnage is another one. But they were mostly glorified house shows.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. You called them pay-per-views. As far as I'm concerned, they're glorified house shows. The only pay-per-view I think of when it comes to what happened in England was the one at Wembley, which was SummerSlam, because that's one of the big four. And
there was of course one night only, right before Survivor Series '97, where Shawn Michaels won the European belt off Bulldog.
Okay. Well, we had the wrestlers going around the United Kingdom as well as parts of Europe. WWE was at the height of their success. They had bought out all their competition, and they were raking in loads of cash, and everybody wanted a piece of their pie. And their final destination was London, England. They did their Insurrection pay-per-view, and now it was time to go back to America. And when they were at the airport, I guess, waiting to leave, their flight was delayed for 7 hours. Personally, I'm surprised that they actually stayed on the plane for 7 fucking hours. But then again, I'm sure they didn't realize when they were going to leave, which was why they ended up staying on the plane for that long.
You got to remember that this was like a luxury private plane.
Yeah, but I mean, still, I would want to get out after 7. No matter how good the plane is, if I was in there on the ground for 7 hours, there'll be a point where I want to get the hell out of there. Nevertheless, they had an open drinks bar, so to speak, and those guys were knocking it back for 7 hours, alcohol on tap. Now, there's a whole bunch of wrestlers there at the time. Ric Flair leading the charge, so to speak. Yeah, a young Brock Lesnar. He had the return of Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. There were some other more recognizable stars like JBL, RVD, just incredible. Anyone else you can mention?
Kevin Nash was there.
Really?
Yep.
Scott Hall.
The Hardys.
Scott Hall, of course. Okay.
The thing is, though, it wasn't just alcohol that was involved. There were drugs as well. Particularly, Sean Waltman's even admitted to this in a shoot interview, which we'll probably discuss at some point during this, and the whole attitude of guys like Waltman when it came to the discussion of the actual event, the plane ride from hell. But Waltman had mentioned the fact that they were doing GHB because at the time GHB was it was legal. You could get it in health food stores.
We have a person with us right now. I was going to ask him. I've been meaning to ask this guy in our chat if he wants to join us. You want to join us? Wrestling Down Low.
But
Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong button earlier as well, which is why.
Yeah, I know you left the screen. But I don't know if you caught it, Zam, but I was mentioning the fact that they were doing things like GHB, and Sean Waltman has been open about this. GHB at the time, it was available in health food stores. It wasn't considered like a dangerous and illegal drug at the time.
Okay, well,
yeah. So
I mean, that was
because like for example, like the first time you're like, oh, that's a bit messed up, is when they started talking about H bombing.
Yes,
and I was like,
halcyons.
When they're like putting pills in like alcoholic beverages, I was like, oh, dear. It's like, oh, people would just put drinks just to make fat marks fill out and to take advantage of girls. It's like, that's a bit rapey, guys. Don't say stuff like that.
They did stuff like that. I mean, these guys were like rock and roll stars of when it came to wrestling. They'd go to different towns to perform, and then they'll hope one of their perks, what they were concerned is that they would be banging some bird in the area before they moved on. Hello, Jose, how you doing, mate?
Doing all right.
Anyway, so the thing that caught my attention straight away is when Teddy Reynolds talked about the fact that Brock Lesnar flashed himself to her. I was like, really, Brock?
That really upset me hearing that.
That's not something new. I mean, Terry Reynolds came out with this last year. I think actually during Speaking Out, she mentioned the fact that Lesnar had apparently exposed himself to her.
Oh, Brock.
Yeah, Brock. I mean, unbelievable. Was she married? She just divorced Dustin Rhodes at the time.
I think she'd been divorced for a couple of years at that point.
But they still happen to be working with each other.
Well, they work with each other. They got along professionally, and they also got along personally because they do have a child together, and they try to keep it as cordial and professional as possible.
Understandable, but that never really was the case. Even though like Dustin Rhodes did something really silly in trying to serenade Terry Reynolds over the fucking microphone, the PA intercom thing they had on the plane. That was probably the worst thing he could have done.
You got to remember that Goldust at the time had severe. I mean, I know it's only been like the last couple of years that he's been clean, but drug and alcohol problems.
No, I totally agree. But when you hear about all the stuff that happened on this plane, what he did seemed to be nothing at all compared to what everyone else did. I mean, he tried to serenade his ex-wife.
Yeah,
it didn't work out. But what he did to that flight attendant to save her from Ric Flair, I give a lot of credit to him. Because you can be a fucked up person regarding drugs and alcohol, but at least morally we knew where he stood, and he stood in the right place right there, because nobody else defended that lady except for Dustin Rhodes.
Well, let's be honest about this whole episode. With the one exception, all these stories have been told. But the way these stories, because all the boys who have been on the plane have told these stories in various shoot interviews. Now, the problem is when the boys have told these stories, it's been like, it's been a bit of fun, or the reaction was all overblown. For example, Sean Waltman, he has said, "Oh no, I've been on worse commercial airliners than this. There was nothing really bad going on this. The whole thing was overblown. You couldn't take down that door when Lesnar and Kurt Hennig were slamming into it. No, you couldn't break down that safety door. Well, do you want to fucking take that risk at 30,000 feet in the air?
We got like 6'4", 6'5".
The only
230 pounds.
The only person whose story I'm really glad they got a hold of was the flight attendant, Heidi. What was her last name? Heidi.
I apologize. It does escape me, but Heidi will be good enough for now. And it was absolutely heartbreaking hearing some of the stuff that she went through.
Heidi Doyle, sorry, Heidi Doyle.
No, I know. A lot of these flight attendants have to deal with a lot of
RVD came off good in the group. I don't agree with that wrestling down low, because like he was admitting to that. I the thing is that like a lot of people try to cancel people like whatever. But
we're gonna get to this. We're
gonna get to cancel culture. Yeah, don't worry about that.
We're gonna fucking get to this. I don't think. I think we're on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to this. I think RVD came off fine. The guys who really came off as the guys who came off really fucking badly in this episode were Ric Flair,
fuck him,
Scott Hall,
fuck him,
Brock Lesnar,
fuck him
and
too,
Tommy Dreamer,
and fuck him too.
I would even say JR too a little bit. JR seemed to be covering a few things, in my opinion, in this episode, like regarding Terry Reynolds and Brock Lesnar. Did it happen? Maybe. You know what I mean?
He never heard it. That's the thing. He said in the episode that he had never heard this allegation that Terry Reynolds was making against Brock Lesnar. Now, if that's true, he's never heard it. Well, what could he do? I mean, if you don't, it's like. Again, if I'm trying to give an example because you're self-employed. Are you self-employed or do you work for a company, Sam?
It's both, really. I'm self-employed and I work for a company because I pay my own taxes. But at the same time, I can start and finish work whenever I want. But on top of that, I feel I have to answer to somebody, it's not myself.
Okay. Well, but anyway, just with regards to Jim Ross, the fact is, if he doesn't hear these allegations, then what can he actually do about it?
You just would have thought that him being high up on the food chain, he would have known about these sort of things.
Well, remember the whole attitude was to tell Terry. I mean, like when Dustin was saying,
"Don't sell it,
PA system, don't sell it, don't fucking sell it."
Yep.
Anyway, so anyway, the beginning of this nightmare began when they went through not one, not two, but three drink scheme cards. Now, as somebody who has addiction issues myself, what mine doesn't to do with alcohol, it's to do with food. I can tell you that being around that, indulging in that stuff is never a good idea, especially when you got what was it? I mean, how long is it to England to 5 hours, 6 hours, maybe 7 at a push?
It's about 6-7 hour flight.
Yeah. So, and the thing is that you got how many inebriated people who basically are in zero mood to be messed around with, and they're all bigger houses,
Yeah. Lots of them in a jet. By the way, I mean those jets compared to regular planes are a lot smaller. Even though it's spaced out a little bit, still they're more in a more enclosed space. These guys are, majority of them are over 6 foot plus, built like brick shit houses. And they're all getting all drugged up, all fucking alcoholed up. In this contained space for 14 fucking hours in total. Oof. I mean,
actually, Just Incredible came across all right this as well. By the way, just to give out Justin's PJ, what his real name is,
PJ Polacco.
Yeah, he came across
out well.
Nice guy. Because, but yeah. Anyway, the first thing is, I'm trying to remember what the first one was that Bradshaw apparently had been busted open in one of the matches by Hardcore Holly.
No, it was X-Pac.
Yeah, it was Kid.
It was X-Pac and Bradshaw 1-on-1. X-Pac busted open Bradshaw.
Hard way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stiffed him.
And apparently Bradshaw just...
No, what? Right, to get into the context of this, and something they missed out on this apparently as well, is that Bradshaw, when he had boarded the flight, had boarded in a good suit.
Oh,
and Michael Hayes, supposedly he was wasted, but supposedly he'd been H-bombed. And he decided to do a gimmick that the Freebirds used to do, which is if you had stitches on your head, they'd punch you and bust the stitches open. So Michael Hayes did that to Bradshaw and busted him open. Bradshaw's bleeding all over his suit. He gets up and he knocks him out with one hit.
Yeah, and after that, whilst P.S. Hayes is knocked out, X-Pac cuts off his ponytail.
Yes.
Oh, that was fantastic. Michael Hayes should have cut his hair a long time ago. The fact that he's still got those locks is ridiculous. He looks like a fucking, like the fourth member of the Bee Gees, for fuck's sake. And
X-Pac's also gone into detail about why he did that to Hayes. And it wasn't
revenge for Bradshaw.
No. It wasn't revenge for Bradshaw. Kid had just come back and he was working with the NWO. And he'd been told that Michael Hayes had been burying him backstage at TV. He'd been burying him in creative meetings because Michael Hayes was volunteering Edge, Christian, and the Hardys to go up and take all these huge bumps off of ladders.
Mm-hmm.
And X-Pac was saying, well, why don't you take the fucking bump? You're telling these guys to take these bumps every goddamn night, and you're not even explaining to them why. You're not going to let these guys get the chance to grow. So, Ked was really fucking pissed off, and that's when he got brave enough to cut off his mullet.
Wonderful. I mean, I don't want to cut to the end for the sake of it, but
and Hayes apparently nearly pissed on Linda McMahon.
Oh yeah, and then
from when he was supposedly H-bombed, he was standing up and trying to unzip his pants right in front of Linda McMahon.
Linda McMahon, I'm surprised he still got a job.
Okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong. This was also the same flight that The Undertaker choked out Kurt Angle, yeah? Because that's something I don't think they touched on.
No.
Oh yeah, that came later. Yeah,
no,
that came I think a year later.
Actually, I think this was actually the Undertaker Kurt Angle incident was before.
Oh, okay.
Because it was because again, this was something Waltman brought up because he said that Lesnar and Hennig were having a takedown tournament.
Yep, they were having
it was supposedly okay.
Match.
Yeah, but it was supposedly okay for Vince and Kurt to have a takedown tournament previously.
Yeah,
and Taker choked out Kurt Angle because he thought
he thought he was killing Vince.
He thought he was legitimately fighting with Vince.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
that was a separate flight.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm surprised that with Vince McMahon on this flight, so much shit, and his wife as well. I may add, so much shit. So much shit was able to fly on that airplane, and it really upset me knowing that he would get people like Jim Ross to do his dirty work. Like, you're Vincent Kennedy McMahon, god damn it! You know what I mean? You should be able to just walk in there and everyone. It's like when the headmaster comes in, into the room and like everyone just fucking behaves because he's like the boss of bosses. That's Vince McMahon himself. All he has to do is just put his head through the curtain, and everyone will fucking they would smarten up and not behave like fucking animals. But the fact
but
that
the
he
thing
just let
is
that
that
shit fly.
you got one of the biggest ribbers of all time in Kurt Hennig, and you got Brock Lesnar, who with the best will in the world has zero sense of humor. What do you think is going to happen when he puts shaving cream on top of his head and goes?
And not to mention they're Minnesota boys, and them Minnesota boys, they don't fuck around, they don't play.
Yeah, but
The thing is that Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, was a legitimate athlete. I mean, like most of those stuff. Do you like when you used to have the Mr. Perfect, like vignettes of him like hitting home runs and shooting threes and do that? That was Kurt Hennig legitimately doing that.
Yeah,
but
there
was
no
bullshit.
Multiple takes.
Yeah.
There was
but
it was magic it was the magic of television to get that to happen.
Yeah, plus he was. But
well, apparently it wasn't that many takes apparently to get it to happen.
But it was his return. And I remember when he did come back. I mean, I was pretty stoked that he came back. But you could tell that he had put on a few pounds and stuff. He looked a lot wider in that singlet. You know, he wasn't the same. He was in his mid-40s by then. You know, he wasn't the same Mr. Perfect as
you could tell you could tell he was in it for the money at that time too. You could see it in him that he's like, yeah, I came back for the dough.
Yeah, because I mean, he was jobbing out on TV the whole time he was doing that run, and he
jobbed out to Stone Cold
a year later.
Yeah,
this was a year later from cocaine abuse.
Yeah, this was the start of the downfall of Kurt. Sadly, this is what the plane ride from hell is partly about. Is it kind of started Kurt's downfall, so to speak.
As far as I'm concerned, I think what he did to Lesnar was Lesnar being a new guy, and he thought maybe I could take advantage. And regardless of Lesnar being built like a brick shithouse, but Lesnar was a new guy, and he tried to have a go at the new guy, and this new guy wasn't having it. And can you imagine this brawl with all this fucking testosterone in the middle of the fucking skies? You know, it's unbelievable, man. So
I mean, the thing is that of all places I don't want people to start roughhousing, near the emergency exit of a whatever flaming built planet is, especially when they're built like brick shit houses, is like number one on my list. I can't think of a number two. Like you know, start flaming
that's when everyone That's when everyone reasoned up and thought, "Shit, we're gonna get sucked out this fucking airplane like Goldfinger here." So let's just calm these motherfuckers down. But until then, they were just letting those guys beat the shit out of each other, and it was absolutely ridiculous.
And Heidi Doyle was also pointing out that the fact that she wasn't so much worried about the emergency exit, although really nobody wants to see that happen, but she was worried that they were getting dangerously close to breaking the fuselage of the plane.
Yeah, well, they had already broken several parts.
Oh, yeah, they'd broken several chairs, several tables,
several armrests,
compartments. But they were worried about them getting close enough and breaking the fuselage of the plane.
Yeah.
Which, if you've got to do an emergency landing, where the hell are you going to do it over the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah. I'll probably have to head to Iceland. But for sure, it's those wrestlers themselves, they don't understand the dynamics of an airplane. Just being close to that door must have shat them up. When that roughhousing was going on. And what did Jim Ross say? That they were play fighting. This is what I'm a bit upset with Jim Ross. They're saying they're not fucking play fighting is what they do on TV, mate. You know what I mean? This is not play fighting. This was an actual fucking fight, and they were doing it on the airplane in the middle, in the sky. It's just fucking ridiculous. Sometimes it's funny in a way because I'm more angry at these guys because I just being the sort of professionals that they are, you expect better from them, and. To hear all these stories is ridiculous. I want to jump to Ric Flair now.
Yeah, let's go. The highlight of the episode.
Now, Ric Flair apparently has a very, very big dick, very long dick, so long that he's able to swing his hips. Yeah, and his dick is able to move around like a helicopter propeller. Yeah. Now, one of the things he likes to do is to walk around in his robe. Naked, so he has the robe on, but he has no clothes on underneath, and for some reason he's showing off his dick. I don't know whether he was drunk out of his face or not, but it just doesn't seem like a normal thing to do.
One thing I can tell you for sure.
On the plane.
One thing I can tell you for sure is that this is not the first time that Ric Flair has done this. To all those that just found this out, I'm sorry that you had to find out that Ric Flair is such a fucking crazy person in this manner.
Well, before I go, sorry, boss man, go for it.
I was going to say there are the stories of when he was in TNA of apparently like doing the same. Well, not getting undressed, but like getting really bad, like rat ass and grabbing like women off like wedding parties and kissing them and stuff like that.
Oh, he was doing all that long before that. Flair's been fucking crazy since God knows when. He's been off his rocker for decades. This was just the point when we all kind of found out about it back then.
I wasn't after Dark Side aired. I was on Twitter, and it was amazing. Like the response on Twitter, the disappointment in people like Flair and Lesnar and stuff from a lot of the wrestling fans. But then they showed clips of Shane Douglas talking about Ric Flair doing these things, things that we heard about.
And Bam Bam too.
Bam Bam mentioning Ric Flair.
Bam Bam in 1998 was saying the same shit. He's like, yeah, he's made a lot of money, but Ric Flair, let's be honest, he's creepy as a motherfucker. I mean, this goes way back. I wouldn't be surprised if Flair was doing this type of shit in the 80s.
Well, Flair mentioned his first run in WCW when he was part of the Dynamic Dudes. He spoke to Arn in a bar because Arn apparently took issue with Shane Douglas, and Shane said to him, well, how would you feel if that was your daughter? And Flair came along and pulled his penis out in the middle of a bar.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry that people had to find out in this way. I mean, I've seen the outrage on Twitter. People are like, I never thought Ric Flair would be this creepy. I never thought that he could do this. I'm like, yeah, y'all are
here's the thing.
To the party.
Now, the story of Ric Flair strutting through the aircraft with nothing but his robe on and just having his balls hanging out, that has been told repeatedly by the boys, but the way it's been told is that this was just something he did to pop the boys. It wasn't there was never any mention of him going back and harassing the flight attendant.
That's something new.
Until Darkseid interviewed Heidi Doyle, there was no mention of that at all. Everybody just treated it like, oh yeah, Flair took his clothes off, put his robe on, and strutted naked through the airplane, to pop the boys, as a bit of a rib. But
WWE even mentioned this on their fucking story time show that used to be on the network.
Yeah, the most time I mentioned that.
They did. They mentioned that, and I was like, wow. But yeah, they didn't cover the Heidi thing.
Yeah.
Well, look, this is just typical though. You hear, where wrestlers almost forget that they are portraying a gimmick, and him being the limousine, I'm about to say limousine flying, but jet flying, limousine driving, kiss stealing, all of that sort of shit. He was being that at that particular moment. He was jet flying and he was trying to fucking steal some kisses, and it was unfortunately. Well, I don't want to say unfortunately, but he got too ahead of himself, and there's no decorum. This lady is working, and you can't be fucking doing this shit to a flight attendant.
Yeah, I read about that.
Just doing her job. It was absolutely fucking ridiculous, and this is where you expect people who are like the leader of the gang, so to speak, like Ric Flair was, to be smarter. Sorry, boss man, go for it.
Well, this was on Wrestle Talk and Cultaholic today. Apparently, he said to Renee Paquette, formerly Renee Young, that if he gets pulled down by this, he's going to start naming names and telling the truth about it. So that's what number one. And number two, apparently, from what Wrestling Downloads has said, he's going to go on it. So the thing is that I'm intrigued because the thing is that, dude, just because you're going to bury everyone else doesn't mean that you're not guilty of doing the things that this hiding lady accused you of. So to me, it doesn't work that way.
And I know people are going to say, well, I know we're jumping ahead, but let's go ahead and just fucking say it now. Fuck Tommy Dreamer.
Yep.
That needs to be said because, I know people are going to say, oh, it was a different time back then. Still doesn't mean it's right, though. Let's just be honest about that.
Well, let's discuss what Tommy Dreamer actually said. I mean, Tommy Dreamer bit said, "Oh, well, people are going to be offended by my hairstyle." You know, as if somehow him having 2 ponytails is
worse than what Flair
to
fucking
sexual
did.
assault.
Yeah.
And I understand completely why Impact have suspended him for the same.
As well, they should.
Yeah, for the same reason. I mean,
I disagree with that.
Impact has just had a massive issue with sexual harassment complaints with regard to Don Callis.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
management. You know, Don Callis having his case of scarlet fever.
Oh.
I don't know. I take it you didn't hear about any of this, Jose. Oh, right. Don Callis was accused of harassing a number of female talents backstage at Impact. One of them in particular was Scarlett Bordeaux.
Somehow, I don't know why, but I'm not surprised by this. Something always seemed off about Don Callis.
She apparently had to sign an NDA. But again, Impact has just had to deal with all these complaints about sexual harassment. They got accused of completely fucking railroading the investigation and letting a lot of people off the hook. And now they've got Tommy Dreamer sticking up for Ric Flair and an accusation that he committed sexual assault and brushing it off as a fucking joke. Now, I'm sorry, but Tommy Dreamer is a promoter and a trainer and a father of 2 fucking twin girls. So, how would he be fucking comfortable if, let's say, after a House of Hardcore event or an Impact event, a young wrestler came and did the same fucking thing to his daughters that Ric Flair did to this flight attendant? Would he brush that off as, oh, it's just a joke, it's a rib? You know, oh, why didn't she pursue it in a court of law?
Yeah,
I totally agree. I just want to look, Daniel Vance is sorry, boss man. Daniel Vance has written, I had a problem with RVD singles commonplace at parties for women to be drugged. If you're regularly hanging at parties where that's commonplace, you're part of the problem.
Right. Well, I'm going to just mention something here. I'm not entirely sure if Van Damme was saying that he was generally at these parties. There were stories going around about what would happen to women backstage at events. I mean, not just the territories. I mean, the Dog and Pony Show, ECW, for example, Raven, Saturn, Danny Doring, guys like that. They've all told stories about how women used to get treated there. Not just that. I mean, there's the infamous Brian Christopher story where JBL. Yeah. I think we've covered the story elsewhere, but JBL initiated some locker room justice in the shower because Brian Christopher was drugging women. So
Jerry Lawler's son, just for people.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So with Tommy Dreamer, right? There's 2 things. One, which is that he said something that was incredibly insensitive and dull. Let's just call it what it is. The thing is that when he was talking on about the fact that she took the payment and therefore, if she wanted to pursue this, but again, not find the fact that a lot of women aren't believed in the first place, and so that was dumb. But secondly, I don't agree with this whole suspended thing because the thing is, I'm going to say this: he has a right to feed his family and do whatever he needs to do to find out. But the thing is that is he going to change his mind? Probably not, because the thing he knows Ric Flair, and he was supposed to. I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, that he was based upon the character he knows of Ric Flair. But the thing is, just because you know somebody doesn't mean that you actually know them. Because a lot of people were saying about Bill Cosby that he was a great guy. Blah, blah,
wait. Hang on.
Back up.
Fuck this whole fucking thing about he's got the right to feed his family. Well, Impact has the right to say we don't want to be associated with him. They've got the right to say, hey, well, no, this guy made some really fucking dumb comments about sexual assault. We don't want anything to do with that. But you're saying, I don't agree with the suspension. He's got the right to feed his family.
Yeah, what else did you want him to do, man? There's no way out of this. I mean, they had to make the call. They had to suspend him. Well, and I would have done it too.
Because I know that Busted Open have talked about, because Tommy Dreamer's on that. They were talking about, and again, I personally think that I guess there's no right answer to this, and that's the problem with it, because it's such a.
What do you mean there's no right answer? Impact decided that they didn't want anything to do with Tommy Dreamer anymore at the moment because, again, they've had their issues with sexual assault and sexual harassment complaints.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Tommy Dreamer is there openly fucking defending sexual assault and sexual harassment.
All he had to do was just say, "Yeah, Ric Flair was in the wrong," and shut the fuck up. And
Or
this
just
is the
not
common,
say a goddamn word.
not say shit.
Just not answer the fucking question.
Yep.
I see what I still think. What he's thinking is that's not the Ric Flair at all. Boom, done.
Yeah, he should have just said Flair was in the wrong or shut the fuck up. That was all he had to do. Wrestlers have that common problem of just not knowing when to shut the fuck up.
Well,
And
I mean,
Tommy's
again,
one of them.
Dreamers said some dumb shit in the past as well. I mean, he defended Bill DeMott when DeMott was exposed
Hazing everybody and
trainees.
shit.
Yeah, hazing and abusing trainees, including hitting people on the head who were suffering concussions.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm sorry, but fuck this fucking notion that Tommy Dreamer should have the right to work at Impact. Impact, as a company, have got the right to say, well, no, we don't feel comfortable having someone in our locker room that is, particularly when we've got a women's division, the way that we do, that is going to openly defend sexual assault. So no, fuck him. Fuck this idea that he's got the right to earn a living. If he wants to earn a living, go run his own fucking promotion. Go reopen House of Hardcore. Impact does not owe him a goddamn thing.
Well said.
I agree that he needs to know better, and by ignoring these particular actions, he's not knowing better. By giving it a pass, he's not knowing better. And
but the thing is,
we saw it in the documentary.
But probably it's the angle that should be directed to people like Ric Flair and Scott Hall, who are the people who literally did something wrong. It's going to tell
plenty of anger directed at them.
Yeah, but Tommy also said stupid shit too. He's got to be held accountable too. It goes a little bit toward everybody.
I mean, I've got Impact's full statement here for his suspension, by the way. We are aware of Mr. Laughlin's, Tommy Dreamer's, comments on Dark Side of the Ring. The views expressed by him in the interview are completely unacceptable. We can confirm Mr. Laughlin was suspended this morning with immediate effect pending further action. Now, that further action might be that they want Tommy Dreamer to make some kind of apology or to attend sensitivity training like Sammy Guevara and Max Caster have had to do fairly recently for AEW. Or it could be they're just going to eventually say, right, okay, no, we're going to have to cut ties. We can't have this guy in our company anymore. I mean, is your attitude that, no, Impact is in the wrong? They've got to bring back Tommy Dreamer?
They're a private company, my opinion doesn't matter.
But you said Tommy Dreamer has the right to feed his family.
He does.
So
he should go reopen House of Hardcore for that.
I mean, so hang on. So Impact as a private company can do what they like, but Tommy Dreamer has the right to feed his family. Which is the position, boss man?
Well, again, it's not an easy subject to talk about because the thing is, whatever you want to do, because again, with people like Ric Flair and Scott Hall, the salvage industry don't employ him anymore. Because they're in.
I can't see AEW bringing in Ric Flair now. That would be a PR nightmare.
Yep, that ain't happening. He ain't going to AEW. I can tell you that right now.
But my problem is conflating with what they did with what Tommy said. Again, I do believe, and again, you can say that I'm incorrect about this, that I do believe what Tommy Dreamer was based upon was upon Ric Flair's character. The thing is, Ric Flair wasn't in his rational mind. He was drunk, which isn't an excuse, by the way. The fact he's drunk is not an excuse for anything he did. The same with Scott Hall. What they did, they need to be accountable for. That's them, right? Tommy Dreamer is a total different thing. I think he was just based it upon their actions. And again, what he said was dumb. And I think anybody with a sensitive mind could say that was dumb.
I think Tommy Dreamer is not trying to burn bridges, and he's because he's still in this industry. And I'm not. By the way, I'm not defending Tommy Dreamer. By the way, just so people know. But by the responses he gave, he thought to himself, "Damn, I can't be going up against these guys, and I still obviously want to work in this industry because I'm Tommy fucking Dreamer. I still have some clout in that department." And he obviously didn't want to burn any bridges because, he needs to keep these people in his good books, so to speak, or in their good books. And that's why I think he said what he said. And I don't agree with what he said at all, in my opinion. Not at all.
No, do I. I think what he said was insensitive and damaging. And plus, the thing is that as Freddie was saying, like, not as a married man, he's got 2 young. I don't know how young they are. Like, must be teenagers by this side. Young women that he's a parent to. Which I'm damn sure that if some wrestler did that to his daughters, his response would be, "Oh, it was just a joke." I bet he would think it more than just a joke.
So why do you have a post on the Nerd Nation Facebook page about this being cancel culture?
Because it is cancel culture bullshit. Because again, the thing is that it's because again, the anger should be directed towards the 2 people who did something wrong.
Yeah, but Dreamer is the one currently employed by Impact. Again, Impact is a company that has had a massive sexual harassment issue, a very well publicized sexual harassment issue. And there's Tommy Dreamer, who was brought into the company to replace Don Callis. Lo and behold, he's defending sexual harassment.
And there's women who work in that company too, boss man. Yeah.
Okay, but the thing,
how is it cancel culture holding him accountable for what he said and saying we don't want to be associated with him?
That's fine. But my problem is, where's the thing going to WWE and saying that Scott Hall and Ric Flair should be taken out of their Hall of Fame? Because not only did it once, they're in it bloody twice. See, that's my problem.
So
the
because
the consistency.
Because at the minute there's no massive campaign to get him to get Scott Hall and Ric Flair out of the WWE Hall of Fame. But there was some whispering to try and get Tommy Dreamer out of his job, which wasn't much. I mean, let's be honest, there wasn't much whispering to get him out. Impact were pretty quick after that interview aired and saying, "No, he's suspended immediately."
It's because I was listening to Wrestle Talk and they're like going, "Oh well, you need to get rid of him." Blah blah blah. I'm just like,
"Oh, because you were listening to Wrestle Talk." Wrestle Talk, the guys who were run by fucking Alex Shane, the guy who was kicked out because of the Wall of Shame during the Wall of Shame, I should say, during speaking out. The guys who fucking hired Adam Blompier. These are the guys you're listening to.
Well,
they have as much clout on YouTube as you and I do.
Well, look, let's move on from Ric Flair and Tommy Dreamer. Yep. And unfortunately, we're still keeping into the same ballpark though. Scott Hall. Now,
Jesus, that part was tough to watch. Yeah. With Scott,
he's like a sleeping monster. I mean, this guy's 6'6", isn't he? Like at the time.
No, he's taller than that. It's 6'10".
6'10".
Scott Hall is not. He's not 6'10".
Yeah,
Scott Hall's a big man. He's about the same size as Hogan. He just never worked the same style as Hogan did.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But nevertheless,
I thought he was legit 6'10".
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've had a guy who's 6'11" in my cab once. He was a tall motherfucker and a businessman too. But nevertheless, Scott Hall, this sleeping giant, is sitting in the plane, and this flight attendant who's gone through a lot of shit already, having Ric Flair fucking throw himself on her, has to deal with Scott Hall, and she's just waking this guy up. She's trying to do the right thing. Do you want breakfast? And then Scott Hall grabs her, rips some of her shirt buttons, and starts fucking licking her. And she mentions like the violation, and like listening to this lady, some of the shit she went through, it's heartbreaking. And then to have like this inebriated man in Scott Hall, this guy who's falling apart at the seams, do that to her, it's ridiculous. But it's this frat boy mentality a lot of these wrestlers have, thinking they could do whatever the fuck they want. They're built like Adonises, so every woman wants them, and then you add the alcohol and the drugs in the mix, and then you get a scenario like fucking Scott Hall. It's beyond disgusting, and
I mean, the way it's always been told was just that Hall was fucking out cold. I mean, I've heard the story about Just Incredible having to get him on a wheelchair and get him through customs.
I thought that was Mike Chioda.
No, that was PJ. Justin had to wheel him out.
Fair enough. I mean, like him being inebriated all the bloody time was a common thing regarding Scott Hall. But nevertheless, that was different. Him having drug issues and alcohol issues is one thing. Him doing what he did to that lady is another.
Fucked up.
You know what I
That
mean?
was atrocious.
Yeah, and I just get like, you know, watching this episode and knowing some of my more recent stars, people are still even wrestling today, you know, have done all this sort of stuff. You know, it upsets me because I used to, I knew Scott Hall had problems, alcohol problems, but I never held it against him like I'm against him right now, because you know this is a line he shouldn't have crossed, and he did. You know, Ric Flair, someone who I've never really admired Ric Flair the way other people do, but I acknowledge that he's a legend. He's been in the game for ages, you know, and he crossed the line, you know, with what he did to that lady, and some of these other guys as well, like these big muscular guys, you know, no self-control, doing pranks in the fucking sky like they did. It's fucking ridiculous. It was I expected this episode before it aired, I was expecting to have a laugh. Like when I watched the Collision in Career episode, I was laughing my ass off. That was one of the most funniest episodes I've ever seen. Yeah, it was about culture clash and stuff like that. Nothing, no sexual innuendo or anything along those lines. It was just two people from different cultures having to get along for a couple of days, and shit hits the fan. This was far worse than that. I was expecting some hijinks and some stupidity and some pranks to go on the plane, and that did happen. But what they did to that flight attendant, it just made it made this not funny anymore, and it made it tragic. And I'm very upset by it. New mummy's here, by the way. Hello, new mummy.
The way that WWE has posted this or spelled this in their history is that it comes across as funny because the way that people have told the story, you know, they have like a little bit of like, you know, boys will be boys, you know, we're just drinking and partying because that was the culture back then, this sort of thing. Again, it wasn't until, as you were saying, that I saw this episode and I saw Heidi, sorry, I can't remember what her last name was.
Heidi Doyle.
Talking about it. Talking about it, and literally, you could tell by the way she was talking about it, the way that she reacted, you know, that she still has trauma about it and stuff like that. It's like, oh my god. And then apparently, like her husband, I don't know if he's still a husband now, but saying to her, you know, you're just gonna, you know, did you do anything to do this? It's like, what a douchebag. You know, like no,
that wasn't said. That wasn't said.
No, he was trying to see if she was going to take the settlement.
Yeah,
when JR called up and said, like,
yeah,
Harry,
he was trying to pressure her into taking the settlement.
Yeah, taking the settlement, but she was concerned herself that her husband might suggest these things. That wasn't what he suggested. That's what she was thinking. He would suggest that, you know, did you lead them on?
Did you do this?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, going on about how it was back then to how it is now, I'm glad things have changed now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because women shouldn't have to go through this. I was a bit of a douche when I was younger. I'm sure all of us were when it came towards trying to get the attention of the opposite sex and stuff like that. But I learned, you know, through some humbling, I learned, you know, to be more respectful. These guys, because they are in this position, you know, where, you know, they're different from us. You know, they're in good shape. You know, they're very famous. There's loads of women who wouldn't give a second thought of fucking them there and then, probably in public too. You know, they're just not used to being turned down and having their advances not being taken, and so they're egotistical beyond fucking belief. And this is what happens when you have men like this.
As I said to you in the chat room before, Ric Flair is a famous guy. He probably has maybe thrown themselves at him. Why could you just say that, you know, this one woman who's just trying to do a job just wasn't interested in him, and instead of just going, okay, I just sit his ass back down and just, like, you know, taking the L like some of us, like most of us do when we get, you know, the no answer. He was insistent, and I just found that just like incredible, because this is literally a guy. He's literally got women jumping out the flaming cobwebs to sleep with him.
This is where you need to be respectful to. Look at the fucking hand. Look at this hand, the left hand. Look for the ring. If there's a fucking ring there, you leave that person alone because she's married. You know, and she mentioned she was married, so she's very likely to have a ring on her finger. She just had a kid as well. You know, I just expected these guys just don't, you know, like people like this will never understand. And it's a real shame. They've gotten away with so much in the past, and I'm glad, you know, that stuff like this is coming back to haunt them. You know, that they never escaped it, and they might have got away with it then, but you know, the past that will never leaves you, and it's reared its ugly head now, and
especially
like
with with social media now. You know, I mean, I know the plane ride from hell is the most publicized, but there's shit that even we don't know about that could come out one day that would make us go, holy fuck, no matter how long ago it was. And I'm pretty sure there is stories like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it to us to take something that we expected to be lighthearted and turn it into a call to action. Well, yeah, it's, you know, and I know people are going to say, oh, it was a different time then. Yeah, it was a different time then. But yeah, like you just said, Sam, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. And that's exactly what's happening.
I mean, shit, like we had Speaking Out last year. I mean, do people just think that was going to be it? We're not going to have anything more happen?
Oh, it's getting ready to get worse. It's getting ready to get way fucking worse. I guarantee you it will. I guarantee you.
Now, right. The Brock Lesnar Terry Runnels story, unfortunately, I think that is going to get swept under the carpet because one, Brock Lesnar's a huge star. Two, It's a case of he said, she said. Yeah. There's nobody coming forward as a witness. With what Tommy Dreamer said regarding Heidi Doyle not going forward and having her day in court. Well, one, a lot of women don't feel comfortable going forward into court because there's a strong chance they're not going to be believed. And two, who exactly is going to speak out on her behalf when it came to what happened there? Do you honestly think Goldust is going to show up in court and say, yeah, Flair did it?
Exactly.
You know, he'd end his career right there.
Yeah, that'd be career suicide right there.
Absolutely.
Terry Runnels mentioned that, you know, like if she had to go to court every time she had some sort of sexual issue,
she'd still be in now.
Yeah, she'd still be there now.
She's mentioned as well. I think even Saturn verified this. She mentioned the fact that every time she had to manage somebody, she made it point blank clear from day one, I'm not going to sleep with you.
Yeah, this is just a business thing.
This is just business.
What they want me to do.
Sorry, who said this?
Terry Runnels and Terry Runnels. Perry Saturn also verified it. The fact that she would make clear every time she had to work with somebody, I am not going to sleep with you. This is business.
Oh.
Well, I give her credit for being so upfront. To tell you the truth, was there any other? The thing is, when it came to the women in the WWE back then, it just seemed like Terry Reynolds was the only person on that flight. Were there any other?
Oh, she wouldn't have been because there was a women's tag that night as well.
Yeah, she wouldn't have been, but they couldn't get everybody. I don't know who all they had because I know JBL, Kid.
Around that time, like Ivory, like Sable might have been there. I think.
No, Sable was about a year away from coming back.
If anything, you're looking at, I think, Jacqueline, Trish Stratus, Molly Holly,
Victoria.
Victoria, yeah.
I don't think Victoria was in the company at that point.
Oh, no, she was. I think she was just hurt, maybe.
No, because Insurrection was around about May, and I don't think Victoria made her debut until
November, right? Or later,
something like August, September. Because
a
big pay-per-view match with Trish was Survivor Series.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it was Jazz, Jacqueline, Trish,
Molly Holly, and Trish.
Molly Holly, yeah, that might have been on that flight.
Was Ivory there?
I don't know. Ivory, I think, was doing the live wire or whatever the fuck they were doing at the time that weekend show was.
But those are the four that you're looking at as being on the flight along with Terry Runnels. The only other possible female I could think of being there would be Lillian Garcia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, eventually that plane had to land, and luckily it did. And after the Scott Hall incident, Heidi Doyle, she remained in the back or the backstage area of the airplane, like where they keep all the condiments and shit.
Yeah, she just wouldn't go back out there. She was like, "Fuck this."
Can you fucking blame her?
Yeah,
you can't fucking blame her. And finally they land, and like you hear about the plane being totally wrecked,
Like
vomit, needles, trash, everything, broken bits and bobs. Once again, Vince McMahon is on this fucking plane. He just, Linda McMahon is on this plane. It's amazing how, that when you hear stories of Ric Flair being naked in his robe, doing that with the boss just, a few meters away. It's incredible.
Well, again, this was always told as this was just some jovial prank to pop the boys.
Yep.
Again, that's the whole thing. All the stories regarding Plane Ride from Hell, it's always been told by the boys, and it's a case of like, well, no, this was all overblown. This was just boys with boys. This was mentality.
Yeah, this
was
was
all
shits and gigs.
commonplace. This was shits and giggles. Mm-hmm. None of it was ever told from the perspective of the people who had to deal with this horse shit.
Yep.
Yeah,
and because what we used to think was so funny, it ain't funny anymore. Now that you hear about this kind of shit, you're like, no, nope.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I heard about the plane ride from Hell back in the day, but this is the most detail I've ever got from it, and it's like I said, it's very tragic.
And then shortly after, they had to get the F out, and then they got the fucking E in there. It was all like right along next to each other. Plane ride from Hell happens, and then they had to change their fucking name.
Well, Jim Ross was looked upon as by Vince as the person to deal with all the situation. Vince himself never got his hands dirty. He always got Jim Ross to do his shit, and it made me wonder. But Jim Ross is just a fucking commentator. The fact that he has to do this shit as well is ridiculous.
Translations at that time.
Yeah, fair enough. But this was beyond ridiculous. But they had to, start taking some people had to take a fall for this. Kurt Hennig, of all the people, I mean, Kurt Hennig did a stupid prank, but when it came to the other things that was done, what Ric Flair did. I mean, Kurt Hennig got given the axe considering he was a legend of the business, but Ric Flair, he did what he did was far worse.
Yeah, Ric Flair got to keep his fucking. For all those that are wondering, like, why did Ric Flair get to keep his job? Because he's fucking Ric Flair. He was a made man. You couldn't touch Ric Flair at that time. Yeah,
Hennig,
Jim Ross said.
Hennig, I think it was made easy by the fact that one, he wasn't in great shape when they rehired him, and two, it was the fact that Hennig was the veteran. He really should have known better than having a fucking takedown tournament with Brock Lesnar near a fucking exit door.
Yeah,
dude, that was like 15. Yeah, because Brock was, I think, 24, 25 at the time.
He was a young man, man.
Yeah.
He's 25. He just won the NCAA flaming wrestling tournament for heavyweights. This guy is a genetic freak.
Yeah, sadly, this was the start. Sadly, this was the start of Kurt Hennig's downfall. Because what was crazy is he'd be gone like 8-9 months later. He'd be dead.
And with Lesnar, I think it was a case that they decided to put it down to youthful exuberance and experience on his part.
Yeah,
they treated the guys like Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig like, well, you're fucking veterans. You should know a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
exactly. Like you heard about Scott Hall, when they were taking him out of the airplane. Like some people thought he was dead. He was at his lowest of the lowest.
Hey, do you think there's a lot of people that out there regret crowdfunding for his surgery now?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
I heard he's relapsed, by the way. Is that true?
Last I heard, he did years ago, but I don't know when. It's been a while since I've heard such a thing. That
it's been a couple of years since I heard that.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It was great seeing him, looking. But you could tell when somebody has, like with like Jake Roberts, you could tell when they've changed their lives around because you could see it in their face.
Yeah, you can see life.
You can see it in their face. They're not haggard. Like, and then one day, there's another Legends team up and you see Scott Hall. I think, shit, the guy's back on the source again.
Do you think he's going to be saying anything in response to the allegation that was made against him regarding his part in the plane ride from hell?
He'll say some shit. He'll say something. I could see that happening.
Flair is going to be an interesting interview.
Yeah, Flair, he's going to be taking bookings just for this bullshit.
Well, he's going on Renee Paquet's podcast, isn't she? All Sessions. So he's going to be an interesting interview. I'm curious. How the fuck is he going to defend himself over this?
I'm expecting 100% grade A bullshit to come out of that interview. 100% grade A bullshit.
Dustin Rhodes get fired? I can't remember.
Dustin, he got fined. He got fined. He got off kind of easy.
Yeah, because the thing is that Jim Ross went to him
the kid, I think Kid got let go too, didn't he? Waltman? Yeah.
X-Pac.
No, he did get let go because he was still wrestling back then. But
no, Kid.
No, I think he did.
I'm trying to remember. Was
he part of the Generation X and all that?
No, Kid was part of the NWO at that time. I know he did get let go in 2002. I just don't remember when. I think he got hurt, and then they decided to let him go shortly after the fact. Yeah, because it was
the guys who were let go were definitely Hennig and Scott Hall.
Yeah, Hennig and Hall were released. They were out of there. And then the part where fucking at the end where JR saw Hayes' ponytail on the door, I was like, damn.
Oh, yeah, because Waltman had previously said as well that he posted it on the wall at TV. He was trying to auction it.
Yeah.
No, I have to admit, I admire him for doing that. That was class. You know, like PSA deserves that shit, man. You don't fucking hits. I'm okay with pranks. I don't like people doing pranks when somebody's sleeping. I have a real issue with that. I think you catch people at their most vulnerable, and you should never do a prank on anybody when they're sleeping. Personally, I don't think that's a good thing to do. And hitting somebody in the face while they're sleeping to bust open their wound is not a prank. That's fucking assault. And I'm glad PSA's was embarrassed to high fucking heaven. Sometimes you think to yourself, do these guys ever fucking learn? But it was refreshing knowing that when you saw people like John Cena and the new generation of wrestlers coming in, they don't seem to be like this, like the previous guys.
Yeah, they don't seem as rowdy as like the 80s and 90s guys did back then.
Yeah, you get the guys from the old school who are, say, oh, the locker room today is fucking boring. All they do is,
play video games.
Well,
I take playing video games over fucking getting drunk and haggard and fucking getting in bar fights.
You're not risking sexual assault allegations. You're not getting guys dying young of drug addiction as much as you have from guys who who were wrestling in the 80s and the early 90s.
Yeah, I'd rather be in the back playing video games. If it was me, I'd be like, I'd be content with getting my paycheck playing video games and promoting the company because that's what they do now. And I don't think you're ever going to get anything as rowdy as Plane Ride from Hell, at least yet anyway. I mean, I know there's crazier stories, but someday they'll all come out.
I think the camaraderie is being extracted as well. Like, it's so corporate now that this get together.
Yeah, I mean, imagine having fun. Imagine if this shit happened now. Like, that'd be crazy.
Well, you say that the camaraderie's gone, but CM Punk just spoke about that with AEW because it was the main reason he signed with AEW.
That's AEW. WWE though. I'm thinking along that particular line. I feel like in the last 20 years or so, it's been kind of extracted. Like you saw what happened to Zack Ryder, who tried to get himself over. Like there was a time when they would tell you to reach for that brass ring and stuff like that. When you realize that you can't reach, I mean, all of these things have a psychological effect, and then it affects other things as well in your life. And then what's the point of
trying to give it your all if you're not going to be able to get over anyway?
Exactly, and then it affects, like I said, it affects everything else in your life too, like the camaraderie and guys getting together, and they don't have to get drunk or whatever, but like even now with the video games, like Vince doesn't want these guys to be on Twitch and stuff like that, getting popular in other means which doesn't put money in his fucking pocket. He doesn't want that shit. I mean, this is the sort of people you're dealing with right now. I mean, that kills camaraderie.
The thing is that now they've got, instead of coming up with ideas and gimmicks and maybe and promos, they've got a redefaming prepared scripts, do prepared matches, do prepared things. You see, the thing is, whatever criticisms you got of AEW, they don't do that. They'll say, right, go and do whatever you want, and more or less. I mean, the thing is, what's MJF doing? Getting over. What's CM Punk doing? Getting over. And people wondering, why is AEW starting to succeed? It's because they're doing more things right than they're doing wrong at the moment.
It's the little things as well. You mentioned to me Brian Pillman's son is called Brian Pillman Jr.
Yep.
They're letting him keep his name, whilst in the WWE,
Braun Breaker, fuck that name.
Yeah.
Rick Steiner's son, for Christ's sake. I mean,
Michael McGillicuddy.
Who's the genius that came
Why
up
would you want
with
a Steiner on your fucking roster?
You got Michael McGillicuddy. Even Brian Christopher could have used the Lawler name just to get himself somewhere, but no, they
only reason. In fairness, when it comes to Brian Christopher, he didn't use the Lawler name even before WWE.
He wanted to build his own thing.
He was using the Christopher name because he wanted to build his own legacy. He didn't want to, have this idea that he's only there because he's Lawler's kid.
Even though that was the worst kept secret. Even though that was the worst kept secret in the business, because everybody knew. Yeah, we all knew.
You look at guys like George Goulas, for example, who was the drizzling shits. Daddy said sell.
Yep.
You had guys like Eric Watts, who again the drizzling shits. Who was the other one? Mike Graham, Eddie Graham's son.
Even today, you got people like Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. I mean, they're Mike Rotunda's kids.
But Bray Wyatt is talented. These guys weren't. These guys were there because they were the Booker's kid, or they were the son of a famous wrestler. I mean, David Sammartino is another one.
Yeah, drizzling shits.
Yeah.
He had to talk his dad out of retirement, and I don't think they talked for like 10 years after that, because he was like, yeah, can you come out of retirement? And Bruno was like, no, motherfucker, I'm like tired. I'm ready to do this commentating gig.
He had David Flair. He had like the Ric Flair's sons were all fucking useless. They realized that his daughter was the one with all the talent.
Well, I think it only David that really got into pro wrestling.
Yeah, David was the only one out of all.
Reed died of a drug overdose at the age of 18, 19?
Yeah. Most thing I can remember about David, besides I think being chased to a Chuck E. Cheese in WCW, was him getting his ass kicked by the Undertaker.
Oh, like that Titantron of his is fucking legendary, where it's just like him and just Ric Flair looking disappointed.
Yep.
And the fact that was real.
Yep.
Because the wrestlers that you think of, like when I think of Charlotte Flair, I don't necessarily think of Ric Flair because she's so good.
Yeah.
She's not in the shadow of her dad.
That's like Bray Wyatt. You don't think of Mike Rotundo.
No, you think of Bray Wyatt, like you're not going to think of Mike Rotunda and whatnot. But
The Rock, you don't think of Rocky Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. If you're good enough, then you don't have to worry about being in your dad's shadow or your mum's. Yeah, sorry, boss man.
So a question for all of you: what do you think the fallout is going to be from this episode? Because I reckon there's going to be a massive fallout from this.
Flair's making bank. I can tell you that right now. Flair's going to make bank.
This is going to blow over, dude.
Yeah,
I think this is going to blow. I think this will blow.
It's going to be something. Something else is going to come in about 2-3 weeks that we'll all be like, "Oh my god!"
3 days, dude. 2 or 3 days.
Okay,
in a couple of days.
My prediction is Dreamer is probably going to either have to go through sensitivity training or he's going to be fired from Impact. I think the chances are AEW are probably not going to hire Flair now.
Flair will find a way to make bank. I guarantee it.
Flair will probably go make some dates for AAA again.
Yep.
Or he may do a couple of New Japan dates, or a couple of other bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, he'll take his old fag somewhere.
I don't think any mainstream promotion in America is going to touch him again,
and they shouldn't. I would.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Hall is not really doing anything. I don't see him ever making a comeback into the business.
I think these guys are past it, beyond past their prime. Like, I mean, they are just, they the only thing they have left is your television appearance. You'll never see them wrestle again.
Dude, you all right?
That's
all right.
Right. Lesnar. I think that the accusation that was made by Terry Reynolds is going to get swept under the carpet because again, Lesnar's a big star.
Yeah,
Terry's pretty much out of the business, and it's a case of he said, she said. And again, doesn't make it fucking right. But I
Yep.
think that's what's going to happen.
Michael Hayes is still
Yeah.
going to go doot and lie on and lie every fucking week or do whatever it is he does.
That's Bruce Pritchard.
Well, yeah, doot or
That's,
whatever.
yeah,
the fuck.
that's Bruce Pritchard you're thinking of. But no, Michael Hayes is probably still going to have a job. I mean, he kept his job after he reportedly called Mark Henry the N-word.
The N-word. Yeah, I remember that.
But the sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is the worst thing you can do. And what P.S. Hayes did wasn't that he was still terrible.
It was still fucked up, but
it's still fucked up. But in the WWE, in the world of professional wrestling, that shit happens every fucking day. You know, so I expect he's quite high up in the food chain.
Yeah,
and he's also behind the scenes now. You hardly see him anymore. Nothing's going to happen to him.
And Dustin Rhodes, he'll be all right. He'll still be putting on kick-ass matches whenever he's on TV. So yeah, he's going to be okay.
He's got his brother back up as well. You know what I mean?
Yep.
AEW will always be there for him, in my opinion. And once again, even then, Dustin Rhodes, what did he do wrong? He just went on the microphone.
He got drunk and was an idiot. Yeah.
And he got drunk and went on the microphone
the only two guys who are really going to probably find that their careers have been impacted in some way are Ric Flair and Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah.
And Scott Hall.
No, because again, what's Scott Hall doing?
Yeah, Scott Hall ain't doing shit.
Oh yeah. Well, even Tommy Dreamer, as far as I was concerned, I had no idea he was on TNA until you mentioned it. But Ric Flair for sure.
Yeah, Ric Flair, he will, he'll go on podcasts and he'll lie his ass off. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen.
We should maybe do a review of the Renee Paquet interview.
Yeah, we could take a shot every time that we could take a shot every time that he tells some bullshit. We'll be plastered. Or we'll have to
back in the NWA again. I don't personally.
Will he go to NWA? No.
Flair. Oh God, no! The NWA won't touch him.
He'll go to Mexico. I'm telling you now. That's where he's going to go.
Yeah, he'll be doing some dates with Andrade for AAA. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Andrade works for AEW, so I don't. Unless
he works for AEW, but he's allowed to take dates for AAA.
Yeah, he can work.
He faced Kenny Omega at AAA's Triple Mania.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what's next week's
Dark Side? I don't know.
Canyon.
Oh, Canyon, that one's going to be a sad one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know he passed away, but okay, that was interesting. Regarding him, I don't.
Because he was in the closet as a homosexual. He was severely bipolar. He really didn't get his due when he was a wrestler, and unfortunately, he was involved in one of probably the worst incidents WCW ever did, which was in the same arena Owen Hart fell to his death in. Canyon gets thrown off the top of a fucking cage.
Oh, WCW! Oh my God! And let me guess, that was probably a Russo idea because I wasn't watching at the time, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was.
Yeah, Russo was booking at the time.
Oh God!
Wow, well, that's it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Who's on that? I think DDP is going to be on that episode because I know he and Canyon were close. I thought he and Canyon were close. But I don't know.
I would have thought the three guys I would immediately think of that would be there: DDP, Raven,
Raven,
James Mitchell.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because James Mitchell and Canyon lived together for a while.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, James Mitchell is a side gig. He's a singer at weddings.
Huh. And, you learn something new every day.
Canyon got him the equipment in order to do it because he actually liked James Mitchell's singing.
Wow. Something you never knew.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm very happy that this show is back. It's my favorite thing to do with wrestling at the moment. Unfortunately, there's always tragic, but
yeah, can't we get a happy side in the ring every once in a while?
It would be nice.
Oh, I mean, the funny side, like
or like a funny side of the ring.
Well, the collision in career for me had me in stitches. You know, it was dark humor. I don't mind the dark humor ones if they can go down that route, but I'm sure there is stuff out there. But nevertheless,
in many ways, I'm glad this story was finally told from the perspective of Heidi Doyle.
Yep,
exactly. But
now I can no longer laugh at the plane ride from hell. Now every time I think of it, I'm just going to be thinking of Heidi.
Exactly. And wrestling for me is the theater of wrestling is no longer interesting to me. It's the reality of wrestling.
Yeah,
it's far more fascinating knowing what's real and what these guys are really doing.
The business is fucked up when you got people that prefer shows about the past and podcasts about the past rather than watch the current day fucking shit going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, WWE anyway.
I mean, like I said, I give credit to the guys that that at least within wrestling now, it's a bit more cleaned up when it comes to some of the backstage stuff.
Yeah,
like they're not doing as much stupidness, and these guys are, like I said, playing video games. I give credence to Xavier Woods for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Making stuff like that so popular. I heard like people like Shelton Benjamin was one of the first guys to bring like a Game Gear and stuff like that. When he was wrestling back in the day, going on traveling and stuff, he'd be playing on a Game Gear and all these. So I'm glad that these sort of guys were like changing like like how wrestlers have to be. It's not about fucking drugs and alcohol after every session. It's just
hey, you're still gonna have sex stories. I mean, Xavier Woods, you already mentioned. I mean,
he tapped Paige.
Yeah, he tapped Paige while Paige's boyfriend was there.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. But the affairs of the heart, is different. If you know what I mean. Affairs of the heart is a bit different to stories of alcohol, drugs, sexual assault. That's a whole different ball game. Affairs of the heart are still going to happen even today. But as long as these guys are a bit more professional when it comes to being in the workplace, I'm fine with that. And hopefully these dark side of the ring stories are only going to ever be of stuff of yesteryear and not today. Because we're hoping that at least with today things have changed.
Has Gary frozen for you guys too?
No, he's
still there.
All right.
No, I'm still there. I'm just having problems. Sorry. But the thing is that I remember Kanyon from when he was in WCW. He was a very, very, very good wrestler who I thought got fucked when he got invaded ankle. But I don't think he was alone in that particular thing. But I've got to say, and I know that Shredder doesn't go disagree with me, AEW has got me back into wrestling in a big way. As I said, I found it so hard getting through Bloody SummerSlam, but like Flaming All Out was so good.
Oh no! Hey, look, I'm willing to say AEW have got some stuff right. Again, there was a time where I was so fucking offended by that product, I would not watch it. And I think for a long time, I wouldn't give them a chance because
I would say recently.
But no, what I would say had turned me off for the longest time was the spot during the Stadium Stampede match where Matt Hardy is getting drowned and transforming himself right after Shad Gaspard had actually drowned. I thought that was completely distasteful. They could have just cut it from the match.
That, by the way. Yeah.
They could have just cut it from the match. Didn't have to be there. This was all, because it all been pre-taped. I mean, this was something they could have easily edited out.
Yeah.
But credit where it's due. They have. I don't like everything they have done, but they're putting on a decent show. Is it something that I would watch every week? Probably not. If I'm going to watch, the kind of wrestling I watch, I'm going to watch things like Ring of Honor or the NWA. But if you enjoy AEW, you enjoy AEW. That's fine.
For me, Shred, it's whether I watch the product or not. I'm just happy to know that these guys who bust their ass every week, by putting their body on the lines and going here, there, and everywhere, and never having a break, are finally getting a break. And are feeling happier with a company that's treating them with more respect. And we've always, somebody like me who's a bit of a liberal activist, who's always wanted that from workplaces generally, whether it be whatever the workplace may be. It's good to see that in this industry, that is happening, and it's happening within AEW, and hopefully that will make WWE. The
first big sign that they were doing something completely different and doing the right thing for once was probably the way they handled the Brody Lee situation.
Yep,
exactly. Can somebody? I'm not sure where Cousin Cheeto, if he's going if he's being a bit nostalgic here. So do you? So you do not.
You do not prefer stuff from the squared circle. You prefer stories from the unsquared circle. So you prefer stories from outside the ring rather than inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much anything from
As somebody who no longer watches the product, the real stuff, reality is better than theater. You know what I mean? But don't get me wrong, AEW for a brief period got me interested in wrestling again, in the sense that I appreciate what they're doing, and I just don't like, I can't, I just can't with Vince McMahon. I just can't. The guy, in so many for so many different reasons, I just don't want to give this guy my attention anymore, or his company my attention anymore. And the sooner he's out, he's left this world, the fucking better, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, fellas, any more to say regarding this particular episode, or anything else to say just generally before we wrap things up? Bossman?
No, that's it for me.
Okie dokie, Jose?
I'm good.
And Shredder?
Again, just I am finally glad that the true story of this is finally out. It's no longer a case of it's boys will be boys. It's just, Joe, that this is all jovial shits and giggles. This all, was overblown. No, we finally got the real human story from some poor soul who had to go through all of this.
Yeah, we do understand that reference. We just didn't want to give you credit.
I remember the reference. I just forgot.
The Wrestling Revolution days. Sam, that's what he brought up.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got the human side of the story. I will be much happier next week, because I think there's probably going to be a lot more upbeat and humorous stuff to talk about with regard to Chris Kanyon, because he wasn't just somebody who suffered from bipolar disorder and was gay. He was an extremely talented wrestler.
Yeah, and he was a nice dude too. I heard he was a good guy.
From all accounts, exceptionally nice guy when he was on his meds.
Yep.
So I'll be glad to hear some fun stories about Kanyon next week, hopefully.
And who all do we got for the rest of this? Because I know Chris Kanyon, and what else are they doing?
Oh, there's the Bruise of Bedlam episode still to come.
Okay, because
that's gonna be interesting.
Because I think they got like 5 or 6 more episodes. Yeah,
five or 6 more episodes. Bruise of Bedlam's one of them is due to come up. Let me see if I can find the list real quick. Dark Side of the Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm
Dark Side of the Ring. XPW is due to come up.
Oh, okay.
That's the that's the promotion, deathmatch promotion that Rob Black owned. Okay, right. So here we go. Here's the list. So next week it's the Double Life of Chris Kanyon. The week afterwards it's Blood and Wire, Onita's FMW, Frontier Martial Arts. Bikers, Bombs, and Bedlam, Johnny Canine, which is about Bruise of Bedlam. There's The Many Faces of Luna Vachon. That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Extreme and Obscene, Rob Black's XPW. And this one is going to be one hell of a way to cap off the season, the WWF Steroid Trials.
God damn it, I can't believe they're talking about the steroid trials.
And
I'm innocent in that, god damn it.
Hey, do you know who they've got for that one?
Who'd they get?
As an interview. Jerry McDevitt.
What? They got Jerry? Oh,
Jerry
dude.
McDevitt.
Okay. I'm here for that one. Oh, that one's
when Mum was in a fucking neck brace when he went to court.
Yep.
That was hilarious.
That one's going to be full of some shit right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh man, if they got Vince himself, that would make this episode.
They don't have Vince, but they have got the next best thing. His lawyer, Jerry McDevitt.
They've got Jerry McDevitt. Okay. Yep. All right. Oh, that's going to be good. All right.
Oh, then this is coming every week for the next few weeks, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and I can't wait to be back with you guys talking about it some more. So thank you very much, Boss Man. Thank you very much, Jose. Thank you very much, Shredder. We'll all be back next week. Maybe me hosting, maybe one of these guys hosting, maybe Cousin Cheetah hosting, maybe Ginger hosting, who knows. But we'll be back next week talking more Dark Side of the Ring. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, not only to No Budget Productions, but also to NerdTube. We are the greatest YouTube channel you never fucking heard of. We will see you cunts later. Live long and prosper, motherfuckers.
May the 4th be with you.
And fuck you, Tommy Dreamer.
Fuck you, Tommy.